A quiet buzz in the air might seem harmless. A beehive hanging from a tree or tucked into the corner of an old barn may look like nothing more than a cluster of insects going about their daily work. But reaching out to touch it is a mistake, one that can turn a peaceful afternoon into a painful nightmare. A beehive isn't just a nest, it's an entire city. Tens of thousands of bees live inside, each with a purpose, each ready to defend their home. When a person disturbs the hive, even by accident, the bees don't see it as curiosity, they see it as an attack. And bees don't fight alone. The moment a hive is touched, guard bees react instantly, sending out alarm pheromones. This invisible chemical signal spreads through the air, triggering an aggressive response from the colony. Bees don't just sting, they target, they chase. If one bee stings, it leaves behind a scent that calls others to the same spot, turning a single sting into dozens, even hundreds. Some species will follow a person for more than a quarter of a mile, refusing to let them escape. Running into water won't help, bees will hover above, waiting. For most people, multiple stings mean pain, swelling, and dizziness. But for those who are allergic, even a single sting can send the body into anaphylactic shock, closing the throat and shutting down vital organs within minutes. Without immediate treatment, it can be deadly. The danger doesn't stop with humans. If a pet gets too close, if loud noises or vibrations disturb the hive, bees will react the same way. There have been cases where animals, dogs, horses, even cattle, were stung to death after unknowingly triggering an attack. And then, there's the structural risk. Beehives hidden inside walls or attics may seem inactive at first, but breaking into one can cause an entire swarm to rush out at once, filling the air with thousands of angry insects. In some cases, the weight of honeycombs and wax built up over years can even cause ceilings or walls to collapse, releasing a flood of honey, larvae, and thousands of agitated bees into a home. Touching a beehive is never just a small mistake, it's a trigger, one that can unleash chaos, pain, and danger in an instant. But what if a single bee could be more dangerous than an entire hive? Ahead, you'll meet bees so powerful, so aggressive that even one of them can bring more pain than a swarm. Some don't just sting, they hunt. Keep watching. Some bees defend their hives when disturbed. Africanized honeybees go far beyond that. If a person gets too close, even without touching the hive, these bees take it as an attack. They don't just sting, they swarm, they chase, and they don't give up easily. Unlike regular honeybees, Africanized honeybees react much faster to threats. A small disturbance can send hundreds, even thousands, into an aggressive frenzy. Once they lock onto a target, they won't stop at a few stings. They will follow a person for up to a quarter of a mile, swarming their face, their eyes, their mouth, finding any exposed skin. A single sting is painful, but multiple stings can send the body into shock. The venom causes severe swelling, dizziness, and difficulty breathing. Some victims have been stung thousands of times, their bodies covered in welts, unable to escape. People running from these bees have jumped into lakes and rivers, only to find the bees waiting above the water's surface. Livestock and pets aren't safe either. There have been cases where entire herds of cattle were stung to death. Dogs chained in backyards had no chance to escape and suffered a painful end. Even professional beekeepers have been caught off guard by the aggression of these bees, forced to flee their own hives. Africanized honeybees didn't appear naturally. They were created in a failed experiment to breed a more productive bee. Instead, the bees escaped and spread rapidly across South and North America. Now their colonies are found in cities, farms, and forests, and they have no fear of attacking anything that gets too close. Most honeybees stand no chance against hornets. When a giant Asian hornet targets a hive, it's a massacre. These hornets are built for destruction, ripping apart bees with their massive mandibles. A single hornet can kill hundreds in a matter of minutes. European honeybees have no defense, they panic, scatter, and die. But Apis cerana japonica, the Japanese honeybee, has learned to fight back. When a hornet scout approaches, the bees allow it to enter the hive. It seems like a mistake, but it's part of their plan. The moment the hornet steps inside, the trap is sprung. Hundreds of Japanese honeybees rush in, swarming over the hornet in a writhing, buzzing mass. They don't use their stingers. Instead, they vibrate their bodies, generating intense heat. The temperature inside the swarm quickly rises to over 115 degrees Fahrenheit, creating a heat chamber that the bees can survive, but the hornet cannot. At the same time, the bees release carbon dioxide, suffocating their enemy from the inside. Within minutes, the hornet is dead, cooked alive in its own armor. This brutal defense is the only reason Japanese honeybees survive in regions infested with giant hornets. Without it, their colonies would be wiped out in hours. But survival isn't just about defense, it's also about adaptation. While Apis carana japonica has evolved its own deadly strategy, some bees have taken a different approach. Instead of fighting, they've grown into giants. Deep in the tropical forests of Indonesia, a bee unlike any other moves through the trees. It is nearly 4 times the size of a honeybee, with a wingspan reaching over 2.5 inches. Its massive jaws, sharp and powerful, look more like they belong to a wasp than a bee. This is Wallace's giant bee, the largest bee on the planet. For years, many believed it was extinct. First discovered in the 19th century, it was barely seen for over a century. Then, in 2019, researchers found a living specimen proving that this giant still roams the forests. Unlike most bees, it doesn't build hives in open spaces. Instead, it makes its home inside termite nests, using its large mandibles to collect tree resin for sealing its shelter. Despite its intimidating size, Wallace's giant bee isn't aggressive toward humans, but that doesn't mean it's harmless. Those powerful jaws can slice through wood, leaves, and even skin. A bite from this bee wouldn't just hurt, it would leave a deep wound. Few people have ever seen one in the wild, but their rarity makes them a prized target for collectors, putting them at risk of disappearing again. But giant bees aren't the only ones that can be dangerous. Some bees don't need size to be a threat. Some are small, barely noticeable, until they attack in swarms. Size doesn't always determine danger. Sweat bees are tiny, often no bigger than a grain of rice, but their numbers make them a serious threat. Unlike larger, more aggressive bees, sweat bees don't attack with brute force. Instead, they swarm in overwhelming numbers, covering their target in stings until escape becomes impossible. At first glance, these bees don't seem threatening. Many species, especially the metallic green sweat bees, are almost beautiful, their bodies shining with iridescent colors. But what makes them unique is their attraction to human sweat. The salt and perspiration draws them in, making them far more likely to land on a person than other bees. A single sweat bee crawling on skin might not be alarming, but disturbing a nest triggers a very different reaction. When their colony is threatened, sweat bees don't hesitate to attack. Individually, their stings aren't the most painful in the bee world, but when dozens or even hundreds strike at once, the venom builds up, causing intense pain, swelling, and in some cases, severe allergic reactions. In remote regions of Central and South America, people have died from sweat bee swarms, unable to outrun the relentless biting cloud of insects. And yet these bees aren't the most terrifying small bees in the world. Some don't just sting, some tear into flesh. Most people think of bees as honey producers. Trigona bees are different. They don't have stingers. They don't make honey in the way honeybees do. Instead, they bite. And some species feed on flesh. Trigona bees, also called stingless bees, exist in tropical regions of South America, Asia, and Australia. They're small, barely noticeable, but they defend their nests with ruthless aggression. Instead of stinging, they bite down hard with sharp saw-like mandibles capable of tearing skin. If they sense a threat, they attack in waves, crawling into ears, noses, and even under clothing, biting repeatedly. Some species of Trigona bees have taken things even further. Scientists have discovered necrophagous bees, meaning they feed on dead animals. Unlike honeybees that gather nectar, these bees collect rotting flesh, using it as protein to sustain their colonies. In remote jungles, their hives contain not just honey, but bits of meat gathered from carcasses. A swarm of Trigona bees won't just sting. They will rip into skin, bite after bite, until their target is forced to flee. In parts of the Amazon, locals fear disturbing their hives, knowing that once these bees latch on, they won't stop. They may be small, but their aggression, biting strength, and flesh-eating habits make them some of the most disturbing bees in the world. Bumblebees are often seen as harmless, fuzzy pollinators lazily drifting from flower to flower. They look softer, slower, even friendly compared to other bees. But under the right conditions, they can be just as aggressive, and their sting is far more painful than most honeybees. Unlike honeybees, bumblebees don't die after they sting. Their stingers are smooth, which means they can strike again and again without injury. A single bumblebee can sting multiple times in a matter of seconds, injecting a powerful venom that causes extreme swelling, burning pain, and in some cases, serious allergic reactions. Most of the time, bumblebees are calm and uninterested in humans, but they are fiercely territorial. If their nest is disturbed, whether it's hidden underground, inside a tree, or in an abandoned building, they react fast. They don't just sting, they chase. Some species of bumblebees will pursue a person for long distances, refusing to back down. Unlike honeybees, which send a swarm, bumblebees rely on small focused attacks targeting faces, necks, and hands. For those allergic to bee venom, a bumblebee attack can turn deadly in minutes. The venom isn't just painful, it causes deep tissue damage, making multiple stings much more dangerous than those from a honeybee. Even those without allergies can experience nausea, dizziness, and difficulty breathing if they receive too many stings at once. Their strength isn't just in their sting. Bumblebees are among the strongest flyers in the bee world, capable of lifting loads as heavy as their own body weight. Their thick, muscular bodies allow them to fly in strong winds and cold temperatures, giving them an advantage over other bees. While a single bumblebee might not seem like a threat, a disturbed colony is a different story. When their home is threatened, these bees don't hesitate to fight, and they never run out of stings. Bees may be tiny, but their brains are far more advanced than they seem. Studies have shown that bees can recognize and remember human faces, much like how we recognize each other. Instead of seeing a face as just random features, bees process it as a whole pattern, using their advanced visual system to identify familiar shapes. Researchers tested this by training bees to associate human faces with a reward. After learning the pattern, the bees consistently flew to the correct face, proving their ability to distinguish between individuals. This skill helps them navigate complex environments, recognizing flowers, hive entrances, and even potential threats. For a creature with a brain the size of a sesame seed, this level of intelligence is incredible. It raises the question, what else are bees capable of? The answer lies in their ability to do math. Bees don't just memorize faces, they can also understand basic math. Scientists have trained bees to perform simple addition and subtraction by rewarding them when they chose the correct answer in a test. Despite having a brain smaller than a grain of rice, bees learned that blue meant add 1 and yellow meant subtract 1. The results were shocking. The bees consistently solved these simple problems, proving they could process numerical concepts. This ability helps them in the wild, allowing them to count landmarks, remember the number of flowers visited, and even assess the amount of nectar in a patch before deciding if it's worth returning. Bees are not only smart, but their senses go beyond what we can see or feel. They use invisible forces in ways that seem almost futuristic. Bees don't just rely on sight or smell to find nectar. They can detect electric fields produced by flowers. When a bee flies, its body builds up a positive electrical charge. Flowers, on the other hand, hold a weak negative charge. When a bee approaches, the difference between these charges allows it to sense the flower's energy. This interaction doesn't just help bees find flowers, it also tells them which ones have already been visited. Once a bee lands, it alters the flower's electric charge for a short time. Other bees passing by can detect this change, allowing them to skip flowers that have just been drained of nectar. Electric fields are not the only invisible forces bees use for navigation. They also have a built-in magnetic compass. Bees don't get lost. Even when traveling miles away from the hive, they always find their way back. One reason for this is their ability to sense the Earth's magnetic field. Inside their bodies, bees have tiny particles of magnetite, natural magnetic minerals that help them detect the planet's magnetic pull. This ability is especially useful on cloudy days when the sun isn't visible. While many insects rely solely on sunlight or landmarks, bees have an internal compass that keeps them on track, no matter the conditions. This magnetic sensitivity helps them build perfectly aligned honeycombs, with hexagons arranged in precise orientations. Even with such an advanced navigation system, bees still need a way to communicate directions to others. That's where their unique dance comes in. When a bee discovers a good food source, it doesn't keep the secret to itself. Instead, it returns to the hive and performs a dance that tells other bees exactly where to find it. This behavior, known as the waggle dance, is one of the most complex forms of communication seen in insects. The dance consists of a series of movements that indicate distance, direction, and quality of the food. The angle of the bee's body in relation to the sun tells others where to fly. The length of the dance shows how far the flowers are, and the enthusiasm of the movement signals how rewarding the food source is. Bees can share detailed instructions using only movements, proving that their intelligence goes far beyond simple instincts. But their behaviors don't stop at dancing. They are also capable of creating something that seems impossible: blue honey. Honey is usually golden, but in rare cases bees have produced blue honey. This bizarre phenomenon was first discovered in France when beekeepers noticed that their honeycombs were filled with vibrant blue and green honey. At first no one knew what was causing it. But the mystery was soon solved. The bees had been feeding on waste from a nearby M&M factory. The sugary dye from discarded candy coatings made its way into the hives, turning the honey into shades never seen in nature. While this incident was man-made, there are other cases where natural conditions have caused honey to take on unusual colors. Certain plant nectars can influence honey's appearance, giving it red, purple, or even almost black hues. Despite its strange look, blue honey is safe to eat. However, it doesn't meet the natural purity standards for honey production. Still, it proves that bees, in the right circumstances, can create something completely unexpected. Bees may seem like simple creatures, but they can be trained to follow commands, just like dogs. Scientists have successfully conditioned bees to detect specific smells, respond to stimuli, and even recognize patterns in their environment. One of the most impressive examples is their ability to detect explosives. Researchers have trained bees to associate the scent of explosives with a sugar reward. When exposed to certain chemicals, the bees extend their tongues in anticipation of food, making them highly effective at identifying dangerous materials. Bees have also been trained to detect diseases in plants and even human illnesses. Their sense of smell is so precise that they can identify infections, such as tuberculosis, just by detecting changes in a person's breath. With training, bees become living detectors, proving that intelligence isn't just found in mammals. But even the smartest bees need rest, and their sleeping habits are stranger than you might think. Bees are always working, but even they need sleep. Unlike humans, bees don't rest whenever they feel tired. Their sleep patterns depend on their role in the colony. Worker bees take short naps throughout the day and night, often sleeping for just a few minutes at a time. These power naps help them stay alert while still performing their duties. However, older bees, especially foragers, follow a different schedule. They sleep mostly at night, sometimes for up to 5 hours, resting deep inside the hive. Some bees even nap inside flowers, clinging to petals with their jaws. If you ever see a bee hanging motionless from a blossom, it's probably sleeping. Sleep is essential for bees. Without enough rest, their navigation skills suffer, making it harder for them to find their way back to the hive. Even in space, bees have shown how important rest is for their survival. Bees have explored places most humans never will. In 1982, NASA sent 14 honeybees aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger to study how they behave in zero gravity. With no up or down, the bees were expected to struggle, but instead they quickly adapted, learning how to fly and build honeycombs in weightlessness. Later space missions sent more bees to orbit, revealing how they handle extreme conditions. While they continued working, scientists noticed that the lack of gravity affected their ability to find food and move efficiently. Some even became disoriented, showing that bees rely on gravity more than previously thought. Despite these challenges, bees proved that they could survive in space, at least for a short time. Their ability to adapt raises an exciting question. Could bees one day help humans grow food on other planets? If so, they might become the first farmers in space. But even on Earth, some bees have already proven they are smarter than expected. Some bees are not just intelligent, they can learn, solve puzzles, and even use tools. The buff-tailed bumblebee has been studied for its incredible problem-solving skills, showing that bees can think in ways once believed to be exclusive to larger-brained animals. In one experiment, researchers placed a tiny ball in front of a reward. The bees had to move the ball to a specific spot to access the food. At first, they struggled. But after watching a trained bee complete the task, they quickly learned to push the ball themselves, proving that bees can learn from each other. Even more surprising, some bees figured out shortcuts to make the process easier, showing creative thinking. These discoveries suggest that bees are not just following instincts. They are capable of learning, adapting, and improving their skills. But bees have been evolving for a long time. In fact, the earliest evidence of bees dates back millions of years, and fossils reveal just how long they have shaped the natural world. The oldest known bee fossil was discovered in a piece of amber dating back 100 million years. Found in Myanmar, this ancient bee lived in the time of dinosaurs, offering a glimpse into the evolution of these remarkable insects. What makes this fossil even more fascinating is that it shares traits with both modern bees and wasps, suggesting that early bees may have evolved from carnivorous ancestors. Trapped in resin, the fossil preserved tiny details including pollen grains on its legs, proving that bees were already pollinating plants millions of years ago. This discovery rewrote what scientists knew about bee history. It showed that bees have been a crucial part of Earth's ecosystems far longer than humans have existed. A bee colony depends on its queen. She lays all the eggs, ensuring the hive continues to grow. But if the queen dies or disappears, the hive doesn't collapse immediately. Instead, worker bees activate a survival mode, taking over some of the queen's duties to keep the colony alive. Without a queen, worker bees can start laying eggs, but there's a problem. These eggs only hatch into drones, also known as male bees, which cannot collect food or defend the hive. As their numbers increase, the hive becomes weaker. Worker bees will also continue their usual tasks, gathering nectar and protecting the colony, but without new female worker bees, their population eventually declines. If a colony remains queenless for too long, it will fail. The only way to save it is if worker bees raise a new queen by feeding a larva royal jelly, or if beekeepers introduce a new queen. Until then, the hive slowly falls apart. Proof that even a society as structured as a bee colony can only survive without leadership for so long. Bees are more than just pollinators. They are fierce, intelligent, and full of surprises. From deadly swarms to space travel, their world is as dangerous as it is fascinating. And even after millions of years, they keep evolving. That's about it. Write in the comments which fact about bees surprised you the most. For more useful information, watch other videos.